So again, welcome to our session on outreach to faculty and campus community. Specifically, I have my co-facilitator here, and we are going to talk about struggle, success, and sustainability. We are all somewhat involved in teaching primary source here, so we are really eager to not only share our experience, but also hear what your thought, hear what your struggle, success, and sustainability thought on this issue. And my name is Yuqiao Cao. I am the visual literacy librarian at University of Delaware. Specifically, I work with museum objects as the primary source I'm teaching on. And I will pass to Emily.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Beran, and I am the research and instruction librarian for the Division of Rare and Manuscript Collections at Cornell University. And now to Evan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Evan Spencer. I am the Public Services Archivist at the University of Texas at Arlington Special Collections.
So the session goes as we will each present a really short case about our struggle, our success, and our sustainability issues. And then after that, we will turn off the recording and open up the floor. We do have a list of guiding questions, but we don't have to really just go along with it. This is an open discussion. We're here to think what do you think is important to talk about. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass on to Evan.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you for attending our session. So I'm going to start out by talking about a successful partnership that has formed over the last year between myself and a biology professor at UTA. So first, I'm going to tell you about the session that we've developed, and we've run it twice now. And then I'll jump back and talk about how we connected and ways that I think others can approach connecting, specifically with like STEM or non-traditional faculty in their own institutions. Okay, we're on my first slide. Good. So Professor Allison Martin teaches biology for non-science majors, and one of her main goals was to infuse a humanities approach to one of her signature assignments in the hopes of engaging her students with a more scientific, with the scientific concepts and research, but trying to connect with them. The activity we developed together starts with a guest lecture in the class of 96 students. In this lecture, I give sort of the intro spiel, I call it the overview of what special collections is, like who we are, why we collect what we collect, that sort of thing. Then I jump into an explanation of the subject matter that they're going to engage with when they visit special collections the following week. In our case, this subject matter is sort of the reason why scientists were exploring and cataloging species of plants and animals in the American West in the 1840s and 1850s. So luckily that 96 student lecture is broken into 4 lab sections with 24 students, so it's a little bit more manageable. Each lab section then visits special collections to assess an organism found in our collections. So while in special collections, they view and handle the rare books to gather information and images on their pre-selected organisms. We selected organisms that had a connection to Texas because that was something that the professor wanted. So the students also got that opportunity to ask questions, sort of refresh their memory on why this information was collected in this way. And they also had an in-class assignment to complete on Canvas. So then their sort of homework or the rest of the assignment was to research the modern understanding of this species, including things like the range, scientific name, taxonomy, phylogeny, terms that maybe y'all remember from biology class, but I'm a history person, so I didn't remember. I needed a refresher too. For their final project, each group had to design and print a poster, then give a poster presentation in their final class period. So this assignment was designed to engage students through the humanities and special collections, but also to teach scientific literacy and research skills in the sort of modern databases that they use. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this all started from an outreach opportunity. Last summer, I attended new faculty orientation at my institution, and I verbally expressed my desire to work with, non-traditional partners. I think I said something along the lines of like, I want to work with classes outside of history, especially like STEM classes. And the professor approached me specifically because I expressed that interest. So I think that helped a lot. I found that new faculty are often like hungry to innovate and make a name for themselves. They've got to get tenure right. They're trying to move up in their careers. So working with primary sources in new and exciting ways is one way that they can sort of bolster themselves. And we're in a unique position to help with that. So through working with Allison, I've realized a couple other angles that I personally plan to take in talking to future like potential collaborators. So I'm hoping that some of these might apply to y'all as well, depending on what your institution offers. So first, after Allison and I ran the class once, she informed me that her college, the College of Science, offers an innovative teaching grant. So we applied as co-PIs and we actually got the grant. So my takeaway from that is like, I'm going to tell faculty that there's precedent for getting money based on working with us. Allison is also preparing to present at a national conference later this week. The Society of Advancement of Biological Education Research or something like that, SABR it's called. And I'm presenting here. So there's CV building and professional development opportunities as well. So as I mentioned before, the potential partnership in this class was so strong because of the professor's desire to engage her non-science students in a different way. So if your institution has required gen ed courses like this, that might be an area or an angle that you can take as well. And then finally, at UTA, we have a program called the MAV Advantage program, which encourages faculty to incorporate experiential learning approaches in their classrooms. Faculty can get classes approved more easily, and they get more professional development funding if they teach courses that comply with that program. So if your college or university has something like that as well, that can be an angle too. And then next slide, please. So I mentioned that we got a grant. So part of that grant was, doing some qualitative analysis. And so my part of this was really to try to figure out, like, is it worth it to engage with these non-traditional classes? And so I'll let y'all kind of look over these. I'm not going to read it all out or anything, but my main takeaway here is that there's like 40% of students said they wouldn't return to special collections, which breaks my heart a little bit. But almost all the students had not heard of us before. They're from majors like psychology, business, things like that. So they hadn't heard of us before. And then like 44% of the students that had never heard of us before plan to come back. So I think, yes, it is worth it. But I mean, you can look at that data and kind of decide for yourself, I guess, if it's worth it for you. But I'm excited to hear, during the discussion portion, if anybody has similar experiences or has struggled to reach out to people like this. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Got to find my unmute button. There we go. All right. Hi, everyone. So I am kind of speaking a little bit to some of the struggles that I know I have encountered with doing instruction and working and doing outreach with faculty and campus communities. Also, pardon the coughing. I'm just getting over a cold. But also hoping that maybe, this gives people a chance to see that they might not be the only one struggling with some of these areas, and also, kind of open up the discussion a little bit for maybe where are people having these challenges and how are people overcoming some of them as well, and get this into kind of a collective brainstorming. Today is actually my 1-year anniversary in my current position, and this is my first position after finishing my MLIS. I've learned a lot this past year, and I've definitely been busy figuring out the ins and outs of my position here at Cornell. However, I do find myself struggling with outreach and making connections, both with regular visiting faculty and groups, as well as potential new audiences. So I kind of want to start by talking about the regular visitors. So here we have my first slide. Hi, I'm new here. I'm not only new to my position, but also this university, this community, and this state. I'm lucky that I have a really supportive group of colleagues who are doing a good job of forwarding requests to me as they receive them and are beyond willing to help with any and all of my questions. And believe me, there have been a lot of them, namely, how do I find things on campus? However, I'm not always so sure how best to go about reaching out to faculty and groups who have visited in the past when I have to do it on my own. I get a lot of requests that come through via our Lib Answers page. I get requests that are forwarded to me, as I said, but my access sometimes to information about who has been here before, what their expectations are, and how best to reach out to them is sometimes a little bit more limited. And I'm trying to figure out better ways to get in contact with those, frequent flyers, essentially. This is especially complicated because with the pandemic, we had a bit of a pause on our ability to do as much instruction and outreach. And we also had a vacancy in this position for a little while before I started. So there's just been some gaps. And so trying to figure out how to overcome some of that gaps in contact and things, especially with a new audience that I'm not familiar with. So one of the things I wanted to kind of, pose as a question to people is, do you find it's helpful to just wait for people to come to you? Is there a more effective way to reach out than simply cold calling or emailing people and trying to get their attention that way? Additionally, another challenge that I found with this is that we have some frequent flyers who are great about reaching out, scheduling their visits, making sure that their classes are going to be able to come in. But I don't always have a lot of great information about what their expectations are. I try to find old class lists in Aon, thank God for being able to check and see what's been requested before, or try to find notes from previous sessions or ask colleagues who have maybe worked with the group at least once or twice, or at least have seen what's been done with the group in the past. However, sometimes that information is just not available. I also always try to ask instructors, what are your goals for the session? What are your expectations? And some instructors are really great. They have a lesson plan. They know exactly what they want to do. Other instructors are a lot of times like, oh, I want students to see things. It's like, do you want more than that? Do you want an assignment? Do you want an activity? Kind of where are you thinking with that? So sometimes it's just kind of hard to figure out how to meet expectations and hope that you're accomplishing what they're used to seeing. And so that you're not maybe disappointing people who do come regularly and have a certain built-in level of expectation about what they receive when they come here. So kind of some of the questions I had with that then are, how hard to strive to find answers about previous visits? At what point do you just have to tell yourself the information is maybe not readily available and you need to come up with a plan on your own, or try and get a little more forceful is maybe not the right word, but forceful with an instructor to give more insight into what they're looking for? Would it be better to instead focus on creating the experience that I can deliver or I think is best given information literacy practices and things like that, and then adjust based off of feedback? What's the best course of action? Is it trying to meet previous expectations or trying to move forward as best you can? Next slide, please. There we go. Then comes the question of bringing in the new audiences. I love being able to work with a variety of groups. I often see course descriptions and think, wow, we have materials that would be so great for this class. Again, sorry, everyone. So then I ask myself, how do you connect with new groups or faculty? Is there a better tactic that people have found than cold calling or emailing to get on faculty radar? When is a good time to reach out? Is it, a month or two before a semester starts when people are hopefully making their syllabi for the upcoming semester? Is it better to get on their radar months in advance as soon as you see potentially a course list? Also, how hard do we try to get professors invested, especially if we've got ones that seem a little unsure or resistant to the idea of a visit? Do you continue to reach out when you don't seem to be making any progress, or do you pull back and decide to focus your attention elsewhere? Another thing that comes up a lot with the bringing in the new, for me, is really truly, how do you balance with the current demand that you have? Like I said, we have quite a few really great invested faculty who are frequent flyers when it comes to bringing their classes. But what do you do when you want to bring in new groups? At some point, how do you find the balance of that? Like I said, it's been a busy year for me this past year. I've worked with quite a few classes and campus groups, including ones from a variety of different areas. So some of the question is, do I need to be looking for more groups? I would say that I think I do, because there's definitely some areas that we don't see much of. Like Evan pointed out with his successes, STEM is highly underrepresented when it comes to the classes that we work with. So how do you engage with them more while also still balancing the needs and the expectations and the demand that you have from the more traditional classes? I really would like to find the answer to that. I'm not really sure there is one, but I hope that people have some insight and some ideas. So kind of wrapping up really quick, as I said, these are just some of the struggles, challenges, things that I've encountered so far, and some of the things that I've been thinking more about lately in terms of how to build on an already established program, and how to, make the program what it needs to become with me involved now. I hope that in the following discussion that these questions and observations are just a starting point for us to not only consider these struggles, but also explore, other things that people have encountered. So thank you all. And now we're going to turn it over for sustainability.
So I'm going to talk about sustainability. I have been in my role the longest among the three of us, and there were success and there are definitely struggles. We're all struggling every day, and that's why we're in this session, I guess. But the whole thing is like, if you're successful with your outreach, what do you do next? If you're not successful, do you need to fix that, or do you just need to trial and error and move on? So those are sort of like my question in this part. And I would like to talk about one specific case. So last year, I outreached to this introduction to theater design class. The professor was a participant of one of my study, and we start talking. And the professor mentioned that the theater design class is basically for people who's going to be in theater major, and they basically use this class to go through every single part, every single steps of a theoretical design. For example, how do they design the sound? How do they choose music? And then like designing props and designing the whole set. Specifically for the museum visit, the learning goal is to inspire students to create theatrical props of modern objects with the design from a past art movement. For example, a Gothic iPhone or a Baroque TV. And it's not just like you're designing a Gothic iPhone case, but you are going to rethink about if during the era of like Gothic art movement, people have iPhone, what it looks like, how's the function gonna be different? And eventually they're going to use cardboard box to build it out. And the way I taught this class is I brought the entire class into our museum study room, and I select one object for each of the aspect of this combining design thinking from our movement with an object. For example, some of the artwork I choose represent what if you want to highlight the meaning of a design versus what you want to highlight the function of a design. And the class divided into groups, they talk among their groups, and then I present a new piece of information. And then they rethink if what they thought about this object they're looking at is the same way as they present, and how can they use those knowledge and those way of thinking into their own design. It worked really well. People really talkative. students are so excited about the things, the object we brought out that they don't usually see in class. And then here's the problem with sustainability. So, after the class, I always get an immediate evaluation to the faculty being like, how was it? Is there anything I need to improve or I should include? And the faculty was like, you did great. And this is exactly what we want. And I think the students are really inspired from this activity. I'm like, good. Then if I can get some student feedbacks and maybe, examples from their actual theatrical prop creation. And the faculty was like, yes, I will send you that. But as we saw how empty this page is, I did not get any of the feedback. And I did not hear back from the faculty at all. And then it rolled to the next semester where I also know that the class offered, but because I was busy dealing with other responsibilities in my own role, I did not have time to reach out back to the faculty. Plus, pulling like more than 5 objects in a really short of time and designing these activities and facilitating it takes me a lot of time, because it's not one of those recurring, English writing class or like introduction to the space kind of class. And therefore, I just never hear back from them. But this is a class that I really want to continue. And this is an area that I really want to extend my outreach and collaboration. So I guess my question to the audience is that if you have something like this happen, you really want to grow in the area, but things are just not sustainable, what do you do? How do you tackle that? So I'm just gonna leave it here. And the 3 of us prepared some discussion questions for everyone here. And while my audience, you can read through the discussion questions and think about them, I sort of wanna ask Matt if there's a way we can use breakout sessions, as we have like around 120 people.